Oh, sorry. Let me answer.
Yeah, it didn't come up yet.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Oh, sorry. I should tell everybody this. I'm John Owens. I'm a certified trainer and observer out of Fayetteville. I work closely with JJ on the administrative side, and I'm his director of training for US Lacrosse. And so that's my role. Normally I will show up with John Owens, but like I said, JJ is out of town or out of town, excuse me. And so he couldn't be here tonight. And so I'm stepping in his place. But he is going to watch these back later and also look at the roster of attendance. So Brianna, I am pulling it up as we speak. You can tell anything I forgot of your amazing resume.
No, thank you.
All right, it is pulling up for you right now. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Is your show take it away? So we're gonna start off with minor fouls.
All right. So starting off with the minor fouls consist of having misplays, procedure errors, and illegal uniforms and or equipment. They are not such involved with body contact or stick to the body. So before the game starts, as officials, we are supposed to make sure that all the equipment is correct and make sure there's like no jewelry or anything going on, while also okay, next slide. Sorry, a little bit nervous. Sorry, guys.
I did put her on the spot a little bit. JJ wanted her to get out of her comfort zone. Also remember, minor fouls are basically, these are the ones that are not involving safety issues. All right, here you go.
All right. Again, with misplays, players are not allowed to use their body to stop the ball from going out of bounds. They can't use their hands to catch the ball, and they surely can't stop the ball with their chest. But they are allowed to kick the ball in order to gain advantage, just as long as it's not in the critical areas, the critical scoring area, and they're not trying to attempt to shoot. But if they're going downfield, they are able to kick the ball to gain a better advantage. Next slide. As an official, you will see a lot of players covering. And a cover is basically guarding a ground ball by covering it with the foot, body, or cross, preventing an opponent from playing the ball. You'll see whenever they're playing and it's an intense game, you'll see them try to go ahead and cover, and they'll think they can get away with it, but they're not able to. So once you see they're trying to cover, just make sure to go ahead and call it.
And for those of you who do boys, this is the same as withholding in the boys game.
Empty stick check. You'll see a lot of the empty stick checks. It is known to check or impede an opponent's cross when the cross is not in contact with the ball. Players can intentional contact frequently occurring off the draw or on the ground, but they cannot knock the opponent's stick away from the ball as they are trying to catch/scoop it. Next slide. Warding. Guard the cross with an arm. If one hand is removed from the cross, it may not be used to ward off an opponent with or without contact. Elbows may not be used to protect the cross. As players run down the field, they just have to run straight. They can't shove elbows because that's not fair play. Next slide.
Basically, they can't use a free hand to shield the ball and keep the other person from getting it. This is the same in the boys and the girls game. It's coming.
Play from out of bounds. A player may not take an active part in the game when their feet are out of bounds. When a player is ran off the field, as officials, we have to tell the player to step in order for the play to proceed. They can't start the play outside from out of bounds. Next slide. Restart from out of bounds. A player may not commence play with a pass from out of bounds. Again, they have to be in bounds in order to start the play back over. Next slide. Handball. Touch the ball with the hand. Only goalkeeper can touch the ball. Whoever is in the goal circle is allowed to touch the ball. If any player touches the ball, you have to directly direct it to the opposite team. Squeeze the head of the cross. Use the hand or body to keep the ball in the cross. Next slide.
A lot of times in the boys game because we got officials who do both. Squeezing the head of the cross, that's the same thing in the boys game that we call thumbing. Putting a thumb over the ball so that it won't roll out.
Improper use of the cross. Throw the cross, take part in the game without a cross. Each player has to have a cross in order to start and finish the game. Illegal exchange of the cross, failure to exchange a field cross with a cross on the bench without the cross entering and exiting the field through the substitution area. You'll see that some players will start the game whenever we line up to check their cross sticks. Some players will come to you with 2 cross sticks and they'll let you know that they'll be using 2 different cross throughout the game.
And when you see this a lot, they'll throw the stick as they run by instead of going into the substitution area to get it.
All right, delay of game. Failure to move 4 meters away on a free position. You'll see this one a lot. Whenever you tell them to step away, they'll just stand there and wait for you to ask them again. Repeated self-starts beyond 4 meters of the spot of the foul. Repeated self-starts when self-starts are not allowed. Any type of behavior which in the official's opinion amounts to delay. Next slide. All right, delay of game penalty administration. The first violation is a green card to the offending team, changing possession. The second violation is a green and/or yellow card to offending player. Player serves 2 minutes in the penalty area. With the 2 minutes in the penalty area, whoever's at the table at the time, they will keep track of it, while also you're keeping track of it too, to make sure that the same time is adding up with yours. And they cannot leave the penalty box early. All subsequent violations is a yellow card to offending player. Misconduct player serves 2 minutes penalty, and it counts in the team count card. Next slide.
All right, one final thing to remember. A green card, if you green card for a delay, that is a warning for the entire team, not just that player. So the next time that green yellow does not count in the team cards. Remember that once they get the 4th card, that card and every card in sequential order, they must take a player off the field. They must play short the rest of the game. So if they have 4 cards, they're playing short 1 person the rest of the game. If they have 5 cards, they're playing 2 people short the rest of the game. And so on and so on. But the green yellow does not count toward toward their actual card counts that toward the rest of the game. But if there's a third violation and you've yellow carded it, then hey, that one does count. If it's a straight yellow, it counts.
Illegal substitution. Player who enters without going through the sub area. Player who enters prior to her teammate leaving the field. Player not listed or incorrectly listed on the roster or scorebook. An extra player on the field. Player who enters the official's hand is on the player who enters after the official's hand is on the sticks for the draw. And you will see a lot of that. Players will try to come in whenever your hand is on the stick for the draw already, and that is considered delay of game. Suspended/ejected player who returns to the game. Next slide.
When we get to the state clinic next week up in the Triangle and on the 19th for Fayetteville, this is one of the things that's on the rule changes and things at the beginning. The timing for the draw is very important. Keep that mental clock. You want from the time that goal is scored to the time that draw goes up. JJ would like that to happen in less than 20 seconds. So keep that mental clock in your head. Don't, hey, if they want to sit around and hey, do the gritty and do a little hype dance or whatever, hey, that's part of that 20 seconds. Don't wait on them. Hey, let's go. Get them going. The whole point of the girls' game is not to be sitting there waiting. They're trying to make it where it's more flowing and more natural. And pause and that clock stopping is not doing that. Our best friend that is official is that clock running. So get them in there, get them ready to go. I promise you, in the words of our own Michelle Roman, she will tell you, it won't take but one time for you to do this and they will fix the problem. So get up there, get it ready to go. And hey, it's like I tell them, if I got to run, you got to run. And so just be ready on those draws, make them happen quick.
Early entry on the draw. Step on and or into the circle or illegally cross the restraining line before the whistle. You will see that players are outside of the circle, but if you are not looking close enough, they do try to get into the circle. So as that referee on the side by the restraining line, you also have to watch the restraining line and the players around the circle. Cross the restraining line before possession is established. Players may not step on or over the restraining line after the official's hand is in contact with the sticks after draw until the restraining line is released, regardless of the number of players between the restraining line. Next slide.
And watch, again, that's important in that one for whoever's doing the administration of the draw. Watch, because you have your primary basis is the draw and that circle is going around. The person who is on the is watching restraining line, they have secondary responsibility on the circle and the draw. But watch, when that early entry, they'll start timing you up, and you'll even see some teams start running so that they are at full speed whenever it goes. So be careful that they don't time you up. Vary your cadence.
All right. So the early entry penalty omission is possession is awarded to the opponent nearest to the spot of the ball. Offending players will move 4 meters away toward the goal they are defending, and self-start is allowed unless the game clock is stopped. Next slide.
And for those of us in Fayetteville, this is one of the things that we actually, and I include myself in this, we messed this up in penalty administration, is there is not a second whistle that has to happen. This is a self-start availability. Thank you, Munther, for correcting me when I did it to get it right. So Munther got me, and I went back and looked at it, and he was dead on. We do not have to blow a whistle to restart it. That is a self-start.
Yep.
All right. Improper equipment. Wearing jewelry is illegal. Hair ties on wrist, however, are legal. Failure to properly wear a mouthpiece. You'll notice that some players don't have their mouth guard in whenever they're warming up, but while you're checking to make sure the cross sticks are proper equipped, you also want to make sure that you're asking to see their mouthpiece.
Now remember, the
Next.
mouthpiece cannot be white or clear. If they have a white mouthpiece on or a clear mouthpiece on, they got to make it distinguishable. Black tape tastes nasty, but will do the job, or black permanent Sharpie will do the same job.
Improper equipment, failing to wear eye protection, which is their goggles. They have to have goggles on at all times. Take part in the game if the uniform does not meet specifications.
And that's a one-time foul for improper equipment. If like they have the wrong uniform, like if they're supposed to be wearing blue and they are wearing white or vice versa, and there's not permission from the state, that's a one-time thing. Then you need to email your regional supervisor and let them know that they had an illegal uniform on. Be a little gracious on the JV side.
An illegal cross. Play with a cross that does not meet specifications. The pocket is too deep or the strung is illegal. When checking before the game, you're supposed to make sure that the pocket isn't deep. And if so, then the players will have to then get out of line and make sure it's tightened more and then come back to see you. Next
And
slide.
remember, in the rule change this year, when you're doing the stick check, you do not apply pressure to the ball, just roll it. All right, no pressure applied. You do not need to throw it in there. You just place the ball in there, roll it, and you're good. Do not apply pressure.
A goal will not count if it is scored with a cross that does not meet the field cross specifications. The player who shot the goal adjusts the string of the cross after an official expects of the cross has been requested during the game. Next slide. Additional minor fouls. Illegal re-entry. Player runs out of bounds and re-enters to a more advantaged position. Illegal stick requests, requesting any additional cross inspections beyond the 2 permitted per team. And you'll notice some coaches will ask to check a player's stick. Illegal substitution. Substitute is illegal. Substituting illegally. Illegal timeout, a team requesting more than 2 timeouts. Next slide. Minor foul penalty administration. Outside the critical scoring area is free possession at the spot of the foul. The offender then has to step 4 meters away in the direction from which they approached. And all other players have to stand 4 meters away. And self-start is allowed. Next slide. Minor defense fouls. Inside the critical scoring area is free possession to the attack player on the 12-meter fan, nearest to the spot of the foul. The offender has to stand 4 meters away in the direction from which they approach, often on the 8-meter arc in front of the attacking player. All other players have to stand 4 meters away. And since this is inside the critical scoring area, there is always a whistle start to restart the play. Next slide.
Hey guys, one thing, please.
Go ahead, Munther.
Yeah, regarding the indirect, when you whistle, then you have to say indirect. You just make sure that there's no shot at the goal after that. Otherwise, won't be no goal. That's it.
That's a great point to remind, and make sure the players know that. Munther made a great point about that. Make sure that the players know that it's indirect. Because we might be the only person on the field who will know why we're taking the ball out of the goal.
So quick question regarding the indirect on a minor foul on that 12. You don't have to clear the lane. Someone can be on the 8 directly in front of the attack person.
Go ahead, Brianna. I'll help you if you need it.
No, so it has to be a clear view. No one can stand in front.
Okay, that's fine. I was just the previous slide. I thought it said that you can be, or maybe let's see, was it that one? Often the offender can be. No, go back where you were. It said that often on the 8-meter in front of the attack player. So that's telling me that the lane does not have to be cleared.
What it's trying to say on that, and I see what you're saying. What it's trying to say is that's where the often problem runs into, is that they'll stand on the 8-meter right in front of them. But you have to clear, you do, as you said, you have to clear that lane.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll often see them line up on the 8-meter right in front of them. Notice how it says indirect whistle start. So let's look at that one more time. Let's see if I can get back to it. There you go. So you got an empty stick check inside the CSA. They're bringing the ball out, and that D probably should be further away, but you can see they're not directly in front.
Okay, so that D doesn't really need to be there. It needs to be
A little bit more to the
clear
side.
lane, basically.
Yeah, I think it's the way the screens match up. Because I can't move it, but the D really should probably be just a little further down, because all you got to have is a view. It doesn't have to be big enough for an 18-wheeler to get through.
Inside the critical scoring area, there's free position to the defender at the spot of the foul. All other players, no player may be within 4 meters of the player awarded the free position, including the offender. Self-start only when clock is running. Once it hits under the 2 minutes, the clock has to stop, and then you have to re-whistle to start the play.
And there's an interpretation question on this one that we are waiting from USA Lacrosse about the self-start here. Because it's inside the CSA, they normally have a whistle start. But there's some questions with the way the new rule reads about that. Drix, are you still on here? I saw you earlier. If Drix is on here, he may have heard that they were supposed to talk about it at Lax Fest. Oh yeah, LaxCom. I don't hear Drix, so we'll keep moving on. We'll get an interpretation. Once we get that, we'll make sure we send that out. Because right now, the way the rule that I understand it to be is, and like I said, we're waiting on an interpretation, is if it's in the CSA, it's a whistle start. So we're waiting on an interpretation from US Lacrosse on it.
Attack fouls in the 8-meter arc. When the attack fouls in the 8-meter arc, the defensive free position no longer requires a whistle start. Officials direct the offender away or behind, but the defender may self-start immediately. During the last 2 minutes of the play in each half, all fouls in the critical scoring area require a whistle restart, including when the defense gets the ball. Officials must be diligent during the last 2 minutes to assure a fair restart for defenders versus a false start before the whistle. Next slide. Inside the critical scoring area, there's free possession to the defender at the spot of the foul, at least 8 meters away from the goal circle, which consists of a whistle start. The offender has to be 4 meters away in the direction from which they approach, and all other players have to be 4 meters away. Next slide. Inside the critical scoring area is free possession to the defender on the nearest dot, and it's a whistle restart. The offender has to be 4 meters away in the direction from which they approached, and all other players have to be 4 meters away. Next slide. When is self-start not an option? It's not an option when the game clock is stopped, there's a defensive foul in the critical scoring area, a goal is scored, there's offsides, alternated possession, or indivertent whistles. In the last 2 minutes of each half and all of the overtime, all fouls, attack and defense in the critical scoring area require a whistle restart. Next
And
slide.
make sure if it's an inadvertent whistle, own your inadvertent whistle. If it happens, it happens. Don't try to cover it up. Just own it and set it up. Admit what you've done and just get it set up and then start it back. All right, we're moving on to major fouls. So we're looking at Rule 10, and it covers the major fouls of women's lacrosse.
Major fouls that jeopardize the safety of the game or threaten the spirit of the game consist of major fouls, restraining line fouls for offside, a held whistle, or misconduct suspension fouls. Next slide. Foul with the cross. Dangerous check to the head, cross in through the spear, cross check illegal contact, slash, and dangerous contact. You'll see a lot of check to the heads, and you'll see a lot of crossing in the spear. To know your spear, it's from shoulder to the next shoulder. So anything that goes inside of that spear, you automatically call it. You'll see a lot of slashes and dangerous contact. Foul with the body, a block, shooting space, 3 seconds, and a hold/push. Next slide. Check through the spear. A player may not reach into or through the spear or hold her cross around the throat of her opponent. Like I said, the spear goes from shoulder to shoulder. Anything that comes in that spear, you have to call it. Next slide.
The way that I was taught about the sphere, for those of you who are new, is if you've ever seen one of those pictures of a saint that has the halo around them, or the sphere that goes around their head, that's the sphere area. The other thing is the signal will help you know what the signal is, and it tells you what it is. It basically is, if you're doing the signal is from here to here. That's the signal. So if the stick comes within that area, then that's what the call is.
Illegal stick to body contact. Using the shaft of the stick to hit, push, or displace the opponent. Once you see the player about to extend, you automatically have to call it because they're not supposed to extend. Next slide.
And me and Drix and JJ were talking about this week. This is the one area that Michelle Roman, who's in the Hall of Fame for officiating, she really encouraged us in Fayetteville area last year. And this is one that throughout the state that we really struggle with being consistent on. And it's that push with the stick. If they make an extension on that stick, then that is illegal. If those hands are separated, that is illegal. If the cross is the first to touch their arm, that is illegal on the extension. All right. Make sure that we need, and you hear us say vertical stick or horizontal, that was a horizontal stick. The reason we're saying horizontal, because more than likely their hands are going from together up top to when they turn sideways, they're separating so that the cross is the first thing to make contact with the opponent. And so that's what we're looking for. And if they push or exert force, that's what we've got to get. If they're vertical, most of the time that push is going to be with their hands, and it's not going to be full out extension. It's just going to be a tap. All right. And that we can maintain equal pressure in here as long as we're not pushing or exerting force. The big component here is, are they exerting force? And if their sticks are vertical, or in that, or as some coaches call 10-2, the likelihood of them exerting force, you will know it if they exert force. If that stick's horizontal, they don't have to exert as much force for that to be a foul. Why? Because they're leading with the cross, not the hands. So there's no way, if you're leading with the cross, that you are exerting equal pressure. Equal pressure is the common thing. We cannot go beyond equal pressure. So if we are leading with the cross, and that's our first contact point, we are now not having equal pressure. We are exerting force onto them through the stick. We got to call it earlier. And as we had a coach in the triangle say when me and Michelle were calling a game, if you haven't figured it out, girls, they're going to call a push with a horizontal stick. They're going to call it. So stop pushing. That's what we want to hear coaches say. They're going to call it because they're going to test us. And until we call it, they're going to keep testing us.
All right. In this picture, the defender is dropping the head of the stick to a horizontal position and makes contact with the opponent's body. Next slide. Holding, the defender uses her cross to prevent the player from continuing on her established path. You'll see that a lot when the player is coming full force, they'll try to slow them down. Next slide. Check to the head. It's a mandatory card. No player's cross may hit or cause an opponent's cross to hit the opponent's head or neck. And you'll see that a lot of coaches will say that their girls have been out due to concussions. I know for sure, like the Terry Sanford coach, she always has a lot of girls out because of the concussions for the checks to the head. So we have to make sure that we look out for those. Next slide. Slash. Reckless or dangerous swing of the cross, an opponent's cross or body contact is not necessary. The defender out of position for a legal check, hands together at the bottom of the stick. That's a mandatory card.
Biggest point here is contact does not have to happen, especially if you see the girls take their hands, go over their head. Yeah, you go on and get ready, because they go over their head and they're going to swing down. That's dangerous play, and that's a slash, and we're going to card that every time. It's a mandatory card.
Three seconds foul. No defender may remain in the arc for more than 3 seconds unless she is marking an opponent within stick's length. And you'll notice that some girls, they do lose their player, and all you have to tell them is just say, find somebody, and then they'll start moving around. Count begins when the ball crosses the restraining line into the attacking end of the field. Being part of a double team does not exempt the defender from 3 seconds violation, unless double team is on the ball carrier. Next slide.
On this one, notice that they are exempt from 3 seconds, but they're not exempt from shooting space. And this is where your partners can also help you out to make sure that we get that 3-second foul administration right. The penalty administration depends on the spot of the ball. Ball in the 8-meter arc, free position on the nearest hash. Ball in the CSA above GLE, foul position on the spot on the 12-meter fan closest to the spot of the foul. Ball in the CSA below GLE, the foul position is on the nearest dot. Ball out, this is a new rule change. Ball outside the CSA, the foul position on a spot or the 12-meter fan closest to the spot of the ball.
Shooting space. While outside the goal circle, a player cannot guard the goal by obstructing the free space to the goal, between the ball and the goal, and deny the attack the opportunity to shoot safely. If you see anyone just standing right there while the girl's about to shoot, you automatically have to call it, because that other player should not be standing in sight of the goal.
And this is the other thing to make sure of with shooting space is actually make sure that they're going to, not just because they're running to the goal are they ready to shoot. They've got to be pulling that stick back ready to shoot. If they're not, if they're just cradling it back and forth, then that's not shooting space. If they're just cradling it, that's not shooting space. It's they have to pull back. And as soon as you see that pull back, that's where you got to go tweet and you got to hit the shooting space.
Exemption from shooting space foul. Defenders are double teaming and are within stick's length.
So if they're double teaming up, they are exempt from from shooting space. But if they're not double teaming the person with the ball, they're not exempt from 3 seconds.
Major offensive fouls, foul with lacrosse, dangerous follow through, dangerous propel, forcing through, illegal cradling. You will notice that you see a lot of dangerous follow through and dangerous propel. And sometimes the players do try to force themselves through to get a scoring advantage. Foul with the body, charge, and illegal pick.
So that
Next.
forcing through is basically the same thing as a charge. Or if they got two players side by side and they try to go right through the middle of them, put a square through a round hole is the old saying. Dangerous propel. I never completely understood it. And everybody kept telling me, you'll know it when you see it. Well, I can tell you this, you'll know it when you see it. If they about hit somebody in the face when they shoot, that's a dangerous propel. Or when they pass, that's an example of a dangerous propel.
A charge, defense is established. Offense has the space to change direction. The defender maintains space. The offensive player went into her space, and that is considered a charge.
Can y'all see the video?
In the clip showing that.
Can y'all see the video?
It hasn't came up.
Yes.
Is it up now? Let me do it this way. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, good.
Now, the defender has established her position as the attack player approaches. The defender even starts to back up rather than stepping forward to initiate contact. The attack player continues forward, and she is the one who forces her way into the defender.
COVID training is done, but they've got Vincent Banash to go against.
All right, hold on. I got to figure out where we're at. Because this thing is playing something that I don't know where it is. All right, give me 1 second. I've never done it this way before. Sorry about this. There we go. All right, I'm back with you. Go ahead. Can y'all see it?
No.
Okay. Hold on. Let me get out and try this again. Zoom. Share screen. PowerPoint. Share. View slideshow. All right, can y'all see the slideshow now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me get it back to the right spot. There we go. Take it away.
All right. Illegal cradling. To the left, you'll see that there's a legal defensive position. And then to the right, you see an illegal cradle. Player pulls cross into her own sphere. Next slide. Dangerous propel. That's a mandatory card. Propel the ball with the cross in a dangerous or uncontrollable manner at any time. Next slide. holding, detaining, restraining, tagging, or pressing or pushing against the opponent's body, clothing, or cross with an arm, leg, body, or cross. Next slide.
All right, so we're gonna look at penalty administration. It is based on the location of the ball at the time of the foul. If it's outside the CSA, or inside the CSA, but outside the 8-meter arc and above the GLE. So you can see here, it's the spot of the foul. For defensive fouls, in the CSA below the GLE, goes to the closest dot, whistle, restart. In the CSA above the GLE, outside the 8-meter arc, whistle to call the foul, give a direction for possession, and give the signal for the foul. A1 moves to a spot on the 12-meter fan closest to the spot of the foul. Here's where we say clear lane on each side of the ball, along with imaginary parallel lines. All right. The lane does not extend below the GLE. All right. D1 moves behind. Whistle the restart. No self-start is allowed. Inside the 8-meter arc. Whistle, call the foul, give direction and signal for the foul. A1 moves to the closest 8-meter hash. D1 moves 4 meters behind. In line with the goal, whistle the restart. No self-start allowed. There is nobody allowed to be within the yellow zone. They got to be on the hashes or in the dots or behind the dots. All players must clear the penalty zone. Note the two different. The penalty zone is in yellow. The critical scoring area includes the 12-meter fan and is in red. Players may position themselves between the penalty zone and the end line for 8-meter free positions. Defensive players are entitled to the hash marks adjacent to the ball carrier. So you can see the offender went behind. The two other defenders took the closest hash to the attacking player. Penalty administration for 3-second foul is determined by the spot of the ball when the foul is called. Ball inside the 8-meter, the restart is at the nearest hash. Ball between the 8 and 12-meter, the restart is at the nearest spot on the 12-meter. Ball outside the CSA, restarts brought up to the nearest spot on the 12-meter. This 3 seconds will get you if you're not careful. All right, go ahead, Brianna.
Major fouls by a defensive goalie. If the goalie commits the foul, they must go behind. If the goalie is out of the goalie circle when the defensive foul called and did not commit the foul, she may go back into the goalie circle. Next slide.
All right, I'm going to go over some penalty administration for the offensive fouls. This is new for 2023. The defensive player is given the ball, moves 8 meters from the goal circle, and may self-start. Officials still direct the offender away or behind, but defenders may self-start immediately. All right. So this is when the defense is getting the ball. When the attack, fouls at the CSA between the 8 and 12 meter, the player foul will take the free position at the spot of the foul and may self-start. Again, this is all with the defensive players are getting the ball. During the last 2 minutes of each half, all fouls in the CSA require a whistle start, including when the defense gets the ball. All right, Brianna, take it away.
Major fouls on scoring play is a held whistle. Held whistle is in effect when an attacking player is in the critical scoring area, is on a scoring play, and a defender commits a major foul, but the ball carrier retains possession of the ball and continues their effort towards the goal. Or an attacking player in the critical scoring area is on a scoring play and a major foul is committed against an attack teammate without the ball. In both instances, the official will raise a yellow flag to acknowledge the foul, but let the play continue. Next slide. Scoring play is a continuous effort by the attacking team within the critical scoring area to move the ball towards the goal and to take a shot on the goal. Held whistle. The ball is in the critical scoring area. Attack on a scoring play. Major foul by defense. If the criteria meet, pull the yellow flag that shows recognition of the foul. Hold up until scoring play ends. Attack team loses possession, or the attack shoots.
So I love how US Lacrosse puts their notes on this. It's in relation to the held whistle to the advantage arm on a midfielder held. I see the foul. When you're holding up your hand, it's telling them, I see the foul, but you're doing okay, so I'm not going to call it. All right. And then if you don't get if you lose possession or you don't get a shot off or you don't score, I will call the foul. I'll come back and call it. Now, we cannot do that with shooting space. Shooting space, you have to call it. All right. Misconduct in cards. This is what I told Brianna I would do. We've gone through the major fouls. We've gone through the minor fouls. All right. Misconducts. Participants are expected to uphold the spirit of the game and the intent of the girls' game in compliance with USAL and NFHS girls lacrosse rules. Behavior and play that is not in compliance with the spirit and rules of the game are defined as misconduct. Sometimes it's difficult to make a decision between yellow or red. It helps to ask yourself if the player was simply over exuberant or if it was true intent to harm. Overzealous is yellow. Think of the term flagrant or deliberate in order to define red. Repeated fouls can result in a red card also. Some players are intense and emotional. There's a difference between a personal attack like you're horrible and frustrated excuse me, let me try that again. You're horrible, or when she's frustrated and swearing at the official or another player. A personal attack might indicate an immediate red card, while swearing in frustration not at you or an opponent may indicate a yellow card according to federation rules. In NCHSAA, a swearing in rule is a zero tolerance and is an ejection. Refer to your regional supervisor's comments on this. Cecil Mock's comment has been, yeah, I have to look up. Thank you, Mike, for answering that question. I have not looked in chat, so I appreciate that. Know this about it. Talk with your regional supervisor. Look, if they're frustrated themselves and you're the only one who heard it, I'm not going to say don't ignore it. I'd ask the player, hey, can you help me out? That language ain't going to be tolerated. If it's a one-time thing and that doesn't clean it up, I mean, that cleans it up. I probably ain't doing anything. But if it's a repeated problem, or that is heard by everybody, or if that is directed at an opponent or an official, then the red card is what we are required to give. A player must not persistently or flagrantly violate the rules. Repetitive fouls by the same player or team can be misconduct. Persistent fouls, I'll use the term that JJ uses. I think it comes from soccer. You ask them, you tell them, you card them. 3 strikes, you're out, just like in baseball. All right, ask, tell, card. Look, I need your help. I can't have that slash. That's your second slash. Help me out. I mean, not slash. That's your second push. All right, third time. Hey, that's your third push. Next one's going to be a card. Fourth push. Hey, here's your card for persistent infringement. Misconduct. Non-playing team members leaving her team bench area during the game. Coaches leaving her or his coaching area. Remember the rule with this year, the United Field, on the United Field, they must stay in the coach's box. There's a coach's box in the unified field. The coaches must stay in it. That is a rule change for this year to be enforced. There is a coaching box. The only time that they can leave the coaching box is if a fight breaks out. The coaches may go and break it up. You do not break it up. The coaches can do it. All right. Other than that, if they step on the field to call timeout, I'm not banging them for that. All right. But if they're on the field arguing with you, yes, 100%, I'm banging it. Or in the words of one of my friends in basketball, I'm juicing them. I'm giving them a card. All right. Any type of behavior which is in the official's opinion amounts to misconduct or improper use of electronic equipment. Officials may issue either a yellow card for warning or red card for ejection for misconduct. Issuance of a card should be considered a warning to all players. Same thing we talked about green cards, a warning for delay. That is a warning for the entire team. A suspended player has received the second yellow card in the same game. JJ's not on here. Ken, unless if someone can answer Ken, great. If not, I'll get it at the end. A suspended player has received the second yellow card in the same game. We're waiting on information from the NCHSAA to determine if that is considered a disqualification or is a fouled out player. Because US Lacrosse considers that a fouled out player. And so we're waiting to see if you got to do a DQ or an ejection report for a second yellow card. We're thinking you're not, but it's possible. So we'll get you an answer on that. A substitute may take her place at the end of the 2-minute penalty time. She may play in their team's next game. Again, a DQ. We do not tell coaches they can play the next game. That is up to the NCHSAA. We do not tell them. This is all we tell them is she is fouled out, she is DQ'd, or she is ejected. Red card. Time is 4 minutes. Player must sit or kneel in the penalty area the entire 4 minutes. Now look, use common sense here. If you got a player who is completely out of control and you gave them 4 minutes and a red card and they're ejected, let the coach try to calm them down. This is not the time we show that we're big and bad. This is not the time we show we're big and bad. This is where we let the coach calm them down. Because if they don't, then we have another issue. All right, and I can answer you. We do
John.
not. Your comment, 2 yellow cards, a suspended player. She can play the next game. Agreed, but we are not to the NCHSAA, and you'll see this in the state presentation. Is they have told us not to tell them that coach that decision will come to them via Dragonfly. We are not to make that comment. So that is straight from the NCHSA. This slide is pertaining to USAL, and that's why it's up there. But we are not to inform coaches that they can play or they're ejected, because it can always be upgraded.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Just to remind everybody, a card to a coach means they play short.
Yes, they have to, and we're going to cover that here in a moment. But yes, that is correct. A card to the coach, they're playing short and counts in the team total. At the end of a red card penalty, player must return to the team bench. A player may not return to the game, and the player may be replaced by a substitute. Now, there is only one way Alexandria, let me get there to that coach and we'll answer your question. Now, the only time if a player who is sitting on a red card continues to give you problems, your only recourse is to card a coach. And if I'm doing it for that red card player, it's going to be a red card to the coach. Because then the coach can take that player with them. They both will leave. All right. And so it's an extreme. Use that extreme to your advantage. Coach, I need you to get her under control. If you cannot, you will receive a red card and be relieved of your coaching duties and will have to leave the field with her. Use that to try to get the coach on your side to help you. Goalkeeper misconduct. If a goalie commits a misconduct foul, whether or not she is in the goal circle, she must be carded. Now, this is how you handle goalkeeper penalties. When there's a second dress goalie, the second dress goalie must enter the game. The carded goalie serves 2 minutes or 4 minutes, depending on what it is. Coach selects a field player who serves with the goalie in the penalty area. Team plays short 1 player during the penalty. Well, what if the most common thing happens? There's only 1 dress goalie. The goalie must stay in the game for the first yellow card infringement. Coach selects a field player who serves the goalie's penalty in the penalty area. Team plays short for 2 minutes or 4 minutes. A field player may become the substitute goalie. If the field player becomes the substitute goalie, they must put in all the proper equipment. Now, when they sub for the yellow card, you're going to give them time to switch out. If they choose to put the sub in for the yellow card and they're putting goalie equipment on, you're going to give them the time. But what you're not going to do is give them the time to re-switch. If they want to re-switch, they have to call a timeout. Team cards. Each player, coach, and bench misconduct cards shall be recorded and tallied. If a team receives a 4th card, it will play short for the remainder of the game. 4, they're 1 down. 5, they're 2 down. 6, they're 3 down. So on and so on. If a carded player or any replacement player enters the game before the penalty time has elapsed, the player originally receiving the card will serve an additional penalty and no substitute may re-enter. And my mind just blanked. Munther or Brianna or Drix or Ann, do y'all remember what that penalty is? if they enter early. I just blanked on it. Anybody can help me out on that. If not,
Yeah.
I'll
What they have to do is reserve the entire penalty.
thank you. My mind just blanked. I went to the men's game and I was like, it's crazy. So they have to reserve the whole penalty. Thank you, whoever just, I think it was Mike. Thank you for helping me because my mind just went out the broil. So they have to reserve the entire penalty. All right, ejections. An official has the power to eject without any previous warning. Any player guilty of flagrant or repeated violation of the rule. Remember, persistent infringement is first a yellow card. If they continue to infringe, you can upgrade it to a red card or give them the second yellow card, depending on the severity of it. Ejections will be noted by issuing a red card. Any player receiving a red card is prohibited from further participating in that game. All right, that if you issue a straight red, that is an ejection, and you must do a report on Dragonfly. Before you do the report, make sure you talk to your regional supervisor. That way you can make sure that that was an ejectable offense. It is, and you tell the coach, this player is ejected. It is easier to go from ejected to DQ than it is to go from DQ to ejected. So any red card, you will always tell a coach that player is ejected. If it's a straight red, why did I say straight red? This is girls lacrosse. If it's a red card, it is an ejection. All right, remember in lacrosse, we do not show a red card for the second yellow card. For those of you who do soccer. Coach's misconduct. Here's where we'll get to your question. All right. The head coach is responsible for all persons connected with the team, including assistant coaches, and shall receive any cards assessed related to bench decorum. Any card given to a head coach will count toward the team's cumulative total. All right. In North Carolina, we have a one voice policy. One voice policy. That means we will hear the head coach. We will not hear assistants when it comes to critiquing officials. All right. We've got to do a better job across the lacrosse world in men and women in enforcing this rule. If you hear an assistant coach critiquing your call, you need to remind the coach, use the ladder. Remind the coach, coach, we will hear one voice and it will be yours. I will not hear your assistant anymore. I will hear you. I will answer your questions. All right. Here's your big thing. And if you do any other sports in Southeastern, especially if Errol Daniels is involved, we as officials to coaches in communicating, we answer questions, not statements. Coach, what's your question? That's not a question. If they don't ask you a question, coach, that's not a question, and you keep moving. Not one of those statement questions. Well, she did this and this and this, so isn't that a foul? That's not a question. They're answering the question. They want it to be a foul. All right? They need to ask you questions. If it's an assistant coach, warn them. Then if they get you yellow card them, it is a card to the bench and it's a card to that assistant. All right. So if they got 5 assistants on the sideline and you yellow card, my assistants are Brianna and Munther, and I yellow card Brianna in the first half, and then I yellow card Munther in the second half. Well, guess what? We're going to have a new head coach because both the cards go to the assistants cards go to the bench, and that means it goes to the head coach. The coach will be suspended for the rest of that game. Yellow cards. Coach selects. Oh, I got a new comment. There you go. Good. I agree with you, Kristen. Good to acknowledge coaches. Coach, I hear you. They aren't always questioning our calls. They might not have seen our hand signal. That's a question. Hey, what was the call? That's a great point. All right. We can also talk to the captains or talk to the player that's near you. Build that repertoire. Great point, Kristen. So to answer Alexandria's question, the coach, if they get a yellow card, the player they're down 2 minutes and they have to play short, and that card counts toward the total card counts. So if it's 4, if the coach gets a yellow card, then Munther got a yellow card, Brianna got a yellow card, and Drix got a yellow card. Well, now because Drix got the 4th one, now we're gonna be playing a woman down for the rest of the game. If they get a red card, the coach must leave the game and the spectator area. An interim coach must be designated and selects a field player to serve 4 minutes. If they get, now this is the thing, they get a second yellow card, all right, the punishment is the same as a red card for the coach. If the coach will not leave, get your game day administrator. It is a requirement if you are working in Southeastern or in Triangle for JJ, the game day administrator is required to be written down in the book or on the penalty sheet. You must know their name, and referees need to identify them and put their eyes on them at least to say, hey, I know who you are.
JJ,
Okay.
I'm sorry, John, I have the same rule.
Same rule down in the Eastern or Coastal, excuse me. So make sure you know who your game day administrators are. You do not look, what's that card? That second yellow card or that red card has been issued to that coach. You do not deal with them anymore. Walk away, go to the other side of the field, and let the game day administrator take care of it. But do not start that game until that coach is out of sight and out of listening area. The game day administrator will take care of it. If there is no game day administrator, I know it happens down here a lot where they're covering baseball, softball, and lacrosse all at the same time. Hey, look, don't start that game. And you just look at that coach and say, this game will not start back until you leave. And then you walk away. And how to administer a card. Call timeout. Beckon the offender to you. You want it to be clear who you're carding. Oh, I see it. Oh, okay. Never mind. You want to be clear who you're calling. Face the scores table and display the card to the player. Signal the carded foul. What is it? Make sure your partners are aware of the card. Record the card's player's number, the type of card, and the time. It should also be done in the book, but you need to do it. One thing that I think it was Munther who taught me. Hey, when you card the player, call the timeout. As far as, hey, this is a yellow card for dangerous propel at 2:27. It is released with 27 seconds. That way we're all on the same page, especially if you have someone doing penalty that's not used to it. Administering a card to the goalkeeper. Official restarts play at the spot of the foul or is indicated by foul location. The goalie or substitute goalie goes behind. All right. The goalie goes behind because they were carded. So they were supposed to go out. All right. Even if it's a substitute goalie, they got to go behind. Remember, nobody is allowed inside the goal circle. A deputy is not allowed when the ball is encroaching on the goal. That's a safety issue. All right. So there's no deputy. No one can get inside the goal. except the goalie when the goal is in danger. Misconduct rulings are never easy. The more games you work, the more confident you will be. Don't be afraid to ask your partners for help. Here's what JJ always has told me. If you're going to red card somebody, always get together with your partner. And partners, your role is not to talk someone out of a red card. Your role is to make sure that what the person is going to card them for is a legit red card. You want to ask them, what are you calling? What did you see? Why do you believe this? And if all that checks out and they want to issue, and that's a red card, you both agree, that's when the red card's issued. The clock stopped. Let's make sure before we issue a red card that that is correct. That's at least, I don't know if Drix, if you want to do that down in Coastal, but I know that that's JJ's policy down up here in Fayetteville and will be in Triangle. Get together with your partner on red cards before you issue them. Make sure we're on the same page. Any questions? I think most of the questions have been answered in the chat. Correct. Ken, that's our Mike. That's what we're trying. We got to get clarification on where it talked about the new rule. We're looking for clarification on that from the US Lacrosse. But yes, that's how the rule book currently reads, is exactly how you do it. But the way the wording is, even the slide deck presenter questioned it. So we're waiting on the official ruling. Drix, are you still on?
John, were you talking about the question I asked in regards to the self-start inside the CSA for the defense, if it's an offensive foul? I was asking if it's inside the CSA but below the goal line extended.
Correct.
It's a self-start as well behind the goal if needed.
Yes, if it's behind the goal. But the question is, the CSA with the new rule inside 2 minutes, it still may be a self-start inside the CSA.
Gotcha.
That's what
Okay.
we don't know 100%.
That's
we're
cool.
Waiting on,
Okay.
We're waiting on, because one part of the rule says anything inside the CSA is a whistle start under 2 minutes. But the other rule says now you can self-start inside the CSA. So we're waiting on that if it's inside. But if it's behind and outside the CS, if it's behind, then yes, you can self-start. That's not a problem.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other
Hey-
questions that I may
Hey,
have?
John, real quick, just clarifying on a body ball, right? When a girl kicks the ball, there's nothing in the rule book that limits anyone from kicking a ball in the CSA. So obviously, as long as they're not trying to score a goal.
Correct. They can kick it, but they cannot kick it to score. You can't kick a ball in to score.
I'm sorry, say that again, John.
You cannot kick the ball in to score.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just there's nothing in the book that limits particularly in the CSA, but yeah, you can't score.
Yep. You just cannot score off a kickball. We're not playing soccer.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, something I didn't cover? We covered a lot tonight.
I have one in regards to the penalty administration when you guys were referring to a minor foul and clearing the lane. If the person is on the 12 meter and the defender is placed at the 8 because it's in the direction to which they were coming, the lane does not need to be cleared because it's indirect. Whereas I think what everyone said here, and even that one slide showed the defender on the 8 meter. But a lane doesn't need to be cleared when you're looking at a minor foul because it's indirect.
absolutely
That
right.
player cannot shoot regardless.
You're absolutely right. Yes.
I was gonna say Munther or Brianna or Drix, anybody.
Yeah,
Mine-
who,
No.
I can't see who's talking. You can place the player, from the other team directly from the defense, literally right in front of them on the 8, if they're on the 12, and it's indirect because they cannot legally shoot.
Correct,
So,
but earlier it was stated that they could not, and I was
Yes,
trying
they
to
can. There's
say,
no. since
correct,
they
and I was
can't
trying
shoot-
to make the
Yep.
clarification that because it's indirect,
That's
you
correct.
don't have to clear the lane.
That's
Correct.
right.
The
Okay.
direct
Exactly
is when you have to clear the lane.
Correct.
If,
'Cause sometimes it's hard
a
to
lot of
visualize
the kids,
plays.
you should probably, sometimes the kids will assume because the person's being placed on the 12, on a foul that occurs between the 8 and the 12, that it's indirect. Sometimes they'll ask, but just because somebody's on the 12 doesn't mean it's indirect. And sometimes the players don't necessarily know that. But in the case of a major foul that occurs between the 8 and the 12, and you're putting the player getting the ball on the 12, then you do clear the lane, of course.
Thank you, Ann, for making sure we got that clarified. Any other questions, concerns? I put the attendance link. Make sure you have signed in so we can get you credit to your regional supervisors. This video will be on YouTube. Final information is next week, Triangle will be hosting their state clinic in person at Cardinal Gibbons. JJ will be sending an announcement out about that this week. He's already sent that out once, but he'll send out a reminder. SSOA will not have a clinic next week, neither will, unless Drix, are you having a clinic next week for Coastal?
I may be. I'm still working my schedule around you guys changing the 5th to the 19th. So, but at the moment, no.
Okay. Anybody is invited if they would like to come. We're having an on-field clinic here in Fayetteville at Terry Sanford High School on Saturday, February 4th, which is this Saturday coming up, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're going to actually have players out there, so you'll get some chance to do some hands-on draws, get to see actual plays happening and put into practice what we're doing, with mentors there to help you. This is a no pressure situation. We'd love for you all to come. If you're a newbie, we're really pushing that for newbies to come down if you can, to come down to that. And we're going to do about 2 hours in the classroom, 2 hours on the field, and then come in your uniform. If it's cold, we wear all black. And so we would love to have anybody come. I'll be sending out an email to Triangle and Fayetteville asking if you come. I believe that this is the case. I know he's doing it for the boys. If you're a veteran who comes down to that clinic, he is willing to give you a scrimmage to come to that clinic. If you need to, if you will come down there and you're a veteran, 3 or more years, he'll give you credit for a scrimmage. I'll make sure that's in the email when we post that information too, if you're willing to come and you're a veteran. That way we can mentor some of the younger officials. But we
And
hope to see you there.
Coastal's having one of our 3 on-field events Saturday at John Paul II Catholic High School in Greenville. And then we have 2 others on the 18th of February in Jacksonville and 25th of February in Wilmington.
So plenty of chances to get better. So make sure you try to attend one of these on-field clinics, especially if you're new. We'd love to have you. All right, guys, unless there's any more questions, we are done. I took you the whole hour and 30 minutes. I apologize.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody.